ladies and gentlemen, Elia Kazan.
Tennessee is a playwright. In the same way a lion is a lion, he is nothing but. Perhaps he's our best playwright, people say so, but having done 3 of his plays and 2 films, I gladly testify to his preeminence.
By the time he was 50, Tennessee Williams was the world's best-known, most honored living playwright, with plays translated and performed in every major language, and film adaptations of his work reaching an international popular audience. The plays were awarded 4 Drama Critics Circle Awards and 2 Pulitzer Prizes. Williams received honorary degrees, the Gold Medal for Drama of the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and the nation's highest honor for a civilian, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Tennessee, for actors everywhere and audiences everywhere, we thank you.
After winning World War II, a new generation of Americans was surging with a sense of wider possibility, and American artists were beginning to change world culture. Tennessee Williams, at the age of 34, suddenly became one of the most promising young playwrights in the country. The Glass Menagerie, his first play on Broadway, transported Williams into a world of inordinate success. But the play looked back to harder times, and to a place and people left behind.
I have tricks in my pocket, I have things up my sleeve, but I am the opposite of a stage magician. He gives you illusion that has the appearance of truth. I give you truth in the pleasant disguise of illusion. The time is that quaint period, the 30s. I take you back to an alley in St. Louis. The play is memory. Being a memory play, it is dimly lighted.
What are you up to now?
I'm trying to save your eyesight.
It is sentimental. It is not realistic.
Oh, I know that Milton was blind, but that's not what made him a genius.
Mother, please go away and let me finish writing.
Now, why can't you sit up straight so your shoulders don't stick through like sparrows' wings?
Mother, please go busy yourself with something else. I am trying to write.
I think all of one's serious work is rooted in one's own emotional experience.
You sit up straight and I'll show you. Your stomach pressed against your lungs press against your heart. And that poor little heart gets discouraged because it hasn't got any room left to go on beating for you.
What in Christ's name
Don't you
am I
talk to me like
supposed
that.
to do?
What's the matter with you? Have you gone out of your senses?
I have, that's true. You've driven me out of it.
What's the matter with you?
I think I'm probably more personal than I should be.
You
think I'm crazy about the warehouse? You think I'm in love with the Continental shoemakers? You think I want to spend 55 years of my life down there in that Celotex interior with fluorescent tubes? Honest to God, I'd rather somebody picked up a crowbar, batted out my brains and go back morning. But I go. Every time you come in yelling that goddamn rise and shine, I think to myself, how lucky dead people are.
Young Tom Williams was never the breadwinner for his family, but he did work at the shoe factory his father managed. They were never poor, but the blend of memory and imagination rings so true that audiences, even critics who should know better, take this play to be more factual than it is.
My job consisted of getting up at 6:30 in the morning to rise and shine, being there at 8 o'clock and dusting several hundred shoes, several thousand, I think, in sample rooms, then sitting down at a typewriter and knocking out just not words, but digits. I went home at night and tanked up on black coffee and did my writing.
When Menagerie opened in Chicago in 1944, Williams had been working odd jobs for 6 years to support his writing.
You see, we had no advance publicity.
He's not saying that there was a blizzard. Blizzard, too, I suppose.
And the little
nobody.
Civic Theater, most people by that time, they just didn't know it was there. I hadn't seen Laurette Taylor in a very long time.
Laurette Taylor was the greatest actress of America, you know.
I didn't expect it, you see. I didn't know Tennessee's work.
Even with Laurette Taylor, the audiences were not altogether sold on the play. They considered it downbeat. But Claudia Cassidy and the late Ashton Stevens together, they sold Chicago on the Glass Menagerie.
It sort of hypnotized me. And then Tennessee opened his mouth, and I was his forever.
Take a look at your mother now. Oh, Mother, how lovely.
Tennessee has this incredible compassion for women. I don't know if men were aware of it, but women are.
Had a lot of flowers all over, but they got kind of tired, so I had to take them all off. I led the cotillion in this dress a long time ago. And I won the cakewalk twice at Sunset Hill. And I wore it to the governor's ball in Jackson. Oh, you should have seen your mother. She just sashayed around that ballroom just like that. And I had it on the night I met your father. Oh, Lord, that country. That country. So lovely in May. All lacy with dogwood, simply flooded with jonquils. And my mother said, honey, you can't bring any more jonquils in the house. And I said, I will. And I just kept on bringing them in. Every time I saw them, I'd say, stop, I see jonquils. And I'd make my gentleman callers get out of the carriage and help me to go. Got to be kind of joke. They'd say, look out. Here comes that girl. We're going to have to spend the rest of the afternoon picking jonquils. Malaria fever. Your father. Jonquil.
And Mother, when she came to Chicago, of course, she recognized the beauty of the woman's performance. She didn't admit she saw anything of herself in it, you know.
At that time, I'd known Tennessee very well for 3-4 years. I was aware of all of his habits of rolling his eyes to heaven and being very sweet. Those elements were all through her performance. She had studied him very carefully, but I think she thought that this person's mother must have been very, very like him. And I did go backstage on the opening night with Mrs. Williams' Tennessee, and Laurette Taylor said to her,
well, how do you like yourself, Miss Williams? And my mother, you know, pretended she didn't hear her. And then Laurette, seeing that she wasn't taking up on that, she said, you know, I've got to wear these long bangs in the play because I had this high intellectual forehead and I'm playing a fool. Mother still didn't pick it up.
in those days he simply would say, she is the sweetest and the most boring woman in the world. And she would come to see him in New York, and he would say, Mother, I'm going to put you on this tour bus. And when she got off, he would put her on another one.
Thomas Lanier Williams was born in 1911 in Columbus, Mississippi. He saw little of his father, who worked then as a traveling salesman. His mother took care of him and his sister Rose at her parents' house, the Episcopal Rectory.
Two most wonderful people in my life was my grandfather, who was an Episcopal clergyman, and his wife, my grandmother.
At 5, Tom had diphtheria.
Afterwards, I was sort of semi-paralyzed. I had a defect in my heart, so heaven knows what it really was.
His mother's fretfulness seemed to set him into a pattern of complaints. Ailments, real and imagined, plagued him all his life.
Edwina, his mother, she said, "Oh, Tom, why do you keep making that strange little noise?" He had a a strange little noise when he was getting nervous that he would do. He said, Mother, it is a nervous affliction, and when you have destroyed somebody's life, you must be prepared for minor disabilities.
I was a very solitary child after the diphtheria. I took to reading a great deal. And by the age of 10, I had read nearly all of my grandfather's library, which included nearly all the classics. Two different couples, my grandparents who grew together in wholeness and in love, and my parents who were split violently apart and tore the children apart through division and conflict. Those are the two backgrounds that I had as a forming person.
When Tom turned 7, his father was promoted to a managerial position and moved the family, including a new baby brother, to St. Louis. The changes unsettled everyone. Tom and his sister Rose more than ever retreated from their mother's nerves and their father's drinking into the private world of their imaginings.
The kids would make fun of us, you know, me particularly. I struck them as being rather sissified, as I did my father, in fact.
At 12, too shy even to speak in class, Tom turned his attention inward and began to write.
Because I found life unsatisfactory. I needed to create an imaginary life in an imaginary world, imaginary characters. The only person I was not shy with was my sister. I could always talk to her.
Laura was sort of an abstraction of my sister, Rose.
One crack and it falls through.
Tom? What are you doing?
I'm looking for Dorky.
Where have you been all this time?
I've been to the movies.
When The Glass Menagerie was in production, Williams was forced to provide a drunk scene for comic relief.
I forgot there was a big stage show. The headliner on the stage show was Malvolio the magician. He performed wonderful tricks, many of them. Actually, I don't think it did too much damage, but I didn't want to write it. It was Kentucky straight bourbon.
Even when constrained to write a stock scene, Williams crafted his dialogue with an ear for the kind of intimate poetry he admired so much in plays by Chekhov.
This is his magic scarf. You can have it, Laura. You wave this over a cage of canaries, you get a bowl full of goldfish. Wave it over a goldfish bowl. They fly away, canaries. But the wonderfulest trick of all was the coffin trick. We nailed him up inside a coffin, and he got himself out of the coffin without removing one nail. Now there's a trick that'll come in handy for me. Get me out of this 2x4 situation. What are you shushing me for?
You wake up, Mother.
Goody, goody. Pay her back for all those rise and shines. You know, Laura, it don't take much intelligence to get yourself into a nailed-up coffin. But who in hell ever got himself out of one without removing one nail?
I was young and not prepared for stage language in an American play of such exquisite lyricism. We'd been brought up on Clifford Odets, who was, dynamic and fabulously eloquent, but not lyrical. The mainstream of Broadway was essentially a realistic tradition. And along comes Williams and begins to show influences of Strindberg and of Lorca and of D.H. Lawrence, and as a result creates an alternative tradition for American theater almost overnight.
I left St. Louis and followed from then on in my father's footsteps, attempting to find in motion what was lost in space. I traveled around a great deal. The city swept about me like dead leaves, leaves that were brightly colored but torn away from the branches. I would have stopped, but I was pursued by something. Perhaps I am walking along a street at night in some strange city before I have found companions.
Then all at once my sister touches my shoulder. I turn around and look into her eyes. Oh, Laura. Laura, I tried to leave you behind me, but I am more faithful than I intended to be. I reach for a cigarette. I buy a drink. I speak to the nearest stranger. Anything that can blow your candles out. For nowadays the world is lit by lightning. Blow out your candles, Laura.
And so, goodbye.
Mr. Williams, would you be kind enough to tell us what brought you to New Orleans?
St. Louis. When I first came here, December 1938, I walked up this street one night, and all along the street, I didn't know what it was at first. I heard these metallic tappings on the shutters. Then I began to hear ladies whispering through the shutters. Come in, baby, you know, and offering various enticements. I had been a rather proper sort of person in my private life, so I entered the decadent world of New Orleans. Then I discovered a certain flexibility in my sexual nature, shall I say. When I lived here on St. Peter Street, there used to be a bar called Victor's. And immediately after I finished work, I would go around the corner to Victor's and I would have something made with brandy and cream, brandy Alexander.
Oh, those are good.
And I would listen to the Ink Spots singing a particular record, If I Didn't Care. Would you like me to sing it? If I didn't... No, can you?
If I didn't care... I don't know. I can't get... I don't know. I don't remember the melody.
The vocalist, the lead vocalist, had a very, very high voice, you remember? If I didn't care... Yeah,
sort of up in there like that.
A bass would talk along with it, you know?
Saying holy mackerel or something.
And I would drink that brandy Alexander, listen to that. And that was the high point of my day.
Then why do I thrill?
New Orleans was the first place I really felt free. There was more of an old Greenwich Village quality about the quarter in those days. I was young, and I had all of these plays pent up inside of me. Last Menagerie, Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, Streetcar.
If you were forced to choose your favorite character, who would it be?
I think most people prefer Blanche, don't you?
But do you?
Yeah. I said I must have Kazan as a director.
Elia Kazan, after his award-winning production of Arthur Miller's All My Sons, was the hottest young director on Broadway in 1947.
He didn't want to do it at first.
Williams wrote Kazan a letter to persuade him that he should direct Streetcar. There are no good or bad people in the play, he said. All are activated more by misunderstanding than malice. This was Kazan's key to the characters as he explored them in his private notebook for the original production. The spine of Blanche's character, as Kazan said in his notes, is to find protection.
She has lost everything, and her sister's house, she hopes, will be a safe haven. But she has never been there or even met her sister's new husband, Stanley Kowalski.
Hey, where's the woman?
In the bathroom.
Until Tennessee Williams, the male body was not expected to be of any sexual appeal at all. But it was Tennessee taking Marlon Brando's shirt off that suddenly there was a huge cultural change. The entire country and then the world suddenly accepted the fact that the male was not just a good provider and a warrior and a farmer or whatever, but was of great erotic appeal.
How long are you here for?
Well, I don't know yet.
You gonna shack up here?
I thought I would if it's not inconvenient for you all. Traveling wears me out.
Well, take it easy.